and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey everybody, thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight we're joined by former chairman of the Republican National Committee and, of course, the next senator from the great state of North Carolina, my favorite state, by the way, my good friend Michael Whatley. Michael, welcome to The Right View. I'm so happy to get you on. First of all, I'm very excited to hear that you stepped up to the plate to run for Senate in North Carolina. We know we need a good person there, but I would be remiss, of course, if we didn't start with what I think is still on all of our minds, Charlie Kirk, this horrific tragedy that, of course, we all saw play out last week. I keep thinking, Michael, about us last year, like a year ago right now at the RNC. You were chairman, I was co-chair, and we worked, so often with Turning Point. We worked alongside Charlie Kirk. And I would say, and I have said this publicly, had it not been for the work that he was able to do with a younger generation of Americans, I don't know that Donald Trump would be president right now, Michael. What are your overall thoughts? Just give me kind of where you stand on all of it.
Well, look, I am heartbroken. I'm crushed. We lost a friend, and Erica lost a husband, and their kids lost their father in a tragedy. It's horrifying that this is where the policies of the left, the rhetoric of the left, have really kind of gotten to a point where this is something that we're dealing with. I likened it in a lot of conversations over the last few weeks with, when President Trump was shot. The just kind of the recoil that we had, the chance finally after a couple of days. I went to church yesterday and actually had a chance for the first time to really reflect on Charlie, the man, and how terrible this is, how heartbreaking this is. And we do need as a country, I think, to really truly reflect and think about what he wanted to do was talk. At all points, that was the one thing Charlie wanted to do, was to have an open and honest dialogue with kids on college campuses. It's a huge loss. It really is.
Yeah. I just keep thinking about what the undertaking was like for him, because, Eric, Don, and we all remember when Charlie came into the Trump org offices way back when and said, hey, I'm going to go on college campuses and I'm going to engage with people and I'm going to, espouse conservative values and I'm going to talk about my faith and I'm going to move an entire generation of Americans. And I mean, I think everybody, they were like, okay, wink, wink, nod, nod. He really did it though, Michael. And it is such a huge loss. Obviously, the loss of any life is tragic. But I think what he was able to do, the way he was able to shift the young vote in this country and inspire so many young Americans, I keep thinking about what it means going forward. What do you see as the former chairman of the party? What do you see in terms of our party going forward in this huge kind of void that has been created by Charlie Kirk's death?
Yeah, I remember the first time I met Charlie, you actually introduced me to him at NC State. When he was coming in to North Carolina to campaign for President Trump. Look, the fact that President Trump actually carried, male voters from 18 to 24 in this last election cycle, inconceivable 10 years ago. And Charlie was the reason for that. The fact that we won young voters, both male and female, for the first time ever. Charlie was responsible for that. President Trump did not get reelected without Charlie Kirk, pure and simple. And I think that as we go forward, we need to continue that conversation, and we're going to see, what does that movement look like? It's not going to stop. It's not going to die. The one thing that Charlie emphatically would want is for everybody to pick up and continue to move and continue this conversation. And he influenced an entire generation of young voters, and those people are not going to suddenly turn around and go back to being, liberal. That he has opened up a conduit, a conversation that is transformational within that entire generation, and we need to make sure that we continue, to have that conversation and carry it forward.
Well, I think one of the things that's been really inspiring to me is it feels like it's a palpable shift. I mean, I don't know any other way to describe it. You look around the world and you see that in the UK, in New Zealand, in South Korea, there were these huge kind of, I guess, demonstrations, but positive demonstrations last weekend in the wake of his death. And it's people, Michael, I feel like coming back to a place of faith. I feel like that has been, I mean, that was such a big part of what Charlie did. Not only did he go on these college campuses and sit down and say, hey, I'm ready to debate you. You give it whatever you got. Give me your best. I'll give you my best. I'll tell you my viewpoint. You tell me yours. But he did it from a place of faith and a foundation in God. And his faith was so important to him. It does feel like there's a bit of a spiritual revival going on all around the world, but I would say especially with a younger generation. I mean, last Sunday, I think churches were full across America. To me, nothing could be better than this. To me, there is nothing greater than the idea that maybe our country is headed in a more faithful direction. This country was founded on Judeo-Christian values, and I know that was such a big part of what Charlie did. Have you felt that, though? I mean, to me, I think that has been really inspiring. Look, there's the other side of things, of course. We've seen the crazy people out there, Michael, saying all the horrific stuff. But I feel like overall, it's been very positive. And to see that shift, to me, I think is a very exciting place to be. And I only wish Charlie were here to see it, because I don't even think he would believe what a profound impact that he's had.
Could not agree more. And the fact that, I've got 3 kids who are in college. All 3 of them attended vigils. And the stories that we've heard, from all across the country, every single state where the vigils have been held, I think that's profound. I really do. And we need that. I think America honestly needs to take a moment and reflect and to think about where we are, because when I see the comments online, some of them are really moving, some of them are really strong, but then we see the vitriol on the left where there's celebrations. The fact that Charlie was killed, that a husband and a father of 2 young kids was murdered in cold blood, and that is worthy of people celebrating and calling for more. Really, truly, it hurts your soul. And I think it's just, it shows the radicalization that we've seen from the left. And, President Trump is absolutely right to call that out and talk about how appalling and how disgusting it is. But as a country, I think we do need to use this as a moment of reflection, much like we did right after President Trump was shot, and say, hey, what are we actually fighting for? What was Charlie fighting for? What is President Trump fighting for? It was really moving to me when he said that he was going to dedicate the rest of his life to making sure he doubled down on his fight for America after surviving, the assassination attempt. We need to take that same approach here and make sure that Turning Point and the rest of the conservative movement carries on Charlie's vision, and we're going to fight for a greater America.
But first, I have to tell you about Strong Cell. Strong Cell is a great tasting, refreshing daily supplement drink in a simple 2-ounce sip packed with clean, healthy ingredients and NADH, one of the most powerful nutrients your cells need to thrive. Here's the truth. As we age, our cellular health starts to break down. That can mean low energy, brain fog, aging-related issues. With Strong Cell, your cells can get what they need and your entire body wakes up. We're talking about natural, sustained energy, mental clarity, and that feeling of being recharged from the inside out. Here's the truth. Every vital organ in your body runs on healthy cells. And if your cells aren't working, you're not working either. Go to strongcell.com and learn more about how Strong Cell can help you feel like you again. Use discount code Lara at checkout to save 20%. Can you remember what you were doing 2 years ago in October 2023? Life moves so fast these days, I can hardly remember 2 months ago, let alone what I did a couple of years ago. But for the people of Israel, October 7th, 2023 will never be forgotten. It was on that day that terrorists savagely murdered more than 1,200 innocent Israelis and took 250 hostages. Many of those hostages have died. And yet today it seems as if the cries of the dead and dying have been drowned out by shouts of anti-Semitic hatred. And for many, the most brutal attack on Jewish people since the Holocaust has been pushed aside, ignored, or conveniently forgotten. Yet as the world looks away, a light shines in the darkness. It's a movement of love and support for the people of Israel called Flags of Fellowship, and it's organized by the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. And on October 5th, just a few weeks away, millions across America will prayerfully plant an Israeli flag in honor and solidarity with the victims of October 7th, 2023, and their grieving families. That's love in action. And now you can be a part of this movement too. To get more information about how you can join Flags of Fellowship, visit the fellowship online at ifcj.org. That's ifcj.org. Well, you know, you're there in North Carolina. You're in Charlotte right now. There in Charlotte last week, we also saw another tragedy. Prior to what we saw happen to Charlie, Iryna Zarutska, this young woman who, Michael, came to the United States from Ukraine trying to pursue the American dream. She was senselessly murdered while on mass transit there in Charlotte. And I think that shook a lot of people to see that video, to see how her mistake was literally sitting down in the wrong seat there in front of this murderer, in front of this horrific monster. It's mind-boggling whenever you look at it. I think people are just horrified, rightly so, by that. And it really saddened me, Michael, that this is in my home state, in your home state of North Carolina. It's unbelievable, but, you know, it is happening in so many of these Democrat-run big cities across the country. There's crime that's skyrocketing, and it's one of the reasons that President Trump said, hey, if you guys can't get a handle on protecting your citizens, I'll step in with the federal government. I'll help you out. We saw him do it in Washington, D.C. You've seen the numbers, you know, drop out of the bottom in terms of crime there in D.C. Great stuff. But you're running for senator there in North Carolina. I just give me your reaction to what happened to that young woman, and what is it that you think you would be able to do potentially as Senator Whatley to ensure that things like this don't happen anymore in our home state?
Leadership really matters. And what President Trump is doing right now is showing true leadership in terms of solving the crime crisis that we have across the country. You know, my opponent, Roy Cooper, as the governor, was the one who said we're going to reimagine law enforcement in North Carolina. We don't need to reimagine law enforcement. We need to enforce our laws. DeCarlos Brown Jr., who committed this heinous act, had been arrested and released 14 different times. Roy Cooper put out an executive order saying that we're going to create task forces and we're going to come up with concept like cashless bail, which is a revolving door to put criminals back on the street. That's why this man was on that car. That's why this man was walking the streets of Charlotte and posing the threat that he did. Iryna Zarutska should have never been murdered. And I really think that we need leadership from the top. What I'm going to do as a senator is fight every single day for every family, for every community in North Carolina and, frankly, around the country, because we have got to keep our communities safe. That is the number one priority for the government, and Roy Cooper just failed.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people need to remember exactly like you're saying, Michael, that folks in North Carolina, pay attention. Go back and look at his policies. Go back and look at what happened when he was governor of the state. You know, this is a big deal. And I think we need to have an ally in the Senate position there from North Carolina of President Trump's. Otherwise, look, the president has been very successful for the first, 8 months of his presidency. We're talking about the midterm elections in 2026, Michael. You know, we know the direction that it typically goes. When you win the White House, typically the midterms go the opposite way. Maybe you can remind people why it is so important that President Trump has great allies there in the House and the Senate to ensure that we can continue the great things that we've seen happen during the first 8 months of his administration, right? This is a big deal. This is very important stuff. And people need to know for whom they are voting. Don't go out and just blindly vote. You need to learn about these people as you're explaining some of the policies of Roy Cooper.
Yeah, President Trump right now is leading the most transformational term that we have seen in our lifetime. This is truly remarkable when you think about what he's doing for our economy, securing our southern border and making sure that America is respected around the world again. This is exactly the agenda that he campaigned on and that North Carolina and voters across the country voted for, right? President Trump needs an ally in the Senate. No question about it. I'm going to be that Senate. North Carolina needs a conservative voice in the Senate. I'm going to be that voice, and we're going to fight every single day to make sure that we have an economy that works for everybody in North Carolina. We're going to create jobs. We're going to raise wages. We're going to have trade policies that are going to help our farmers and our manufacturers and our small businesses. And of course, North Carolina, we have such a strong military presence, and we're going to make sure that every man and woman in uniform has what they need to be able to protect our interests and allies all across the country. That's why I'm so excited every day to wake up and go out there and fight for every community, for every family all across the North Carolina, to be that ally for President Trump and that conservative voice in the Senate for every North Carolina family.
Well, let me just ask you, I've considered running for Senate in North Carolina myself, Michael. It's a big move, though, and for me, it just the timing hasn't yet felt right, whether it's North Carolina or where I currently am in Florida. It hasn't felt right with 2 young kids. But I'm curious from your perspective, you were the chairman of the party. I would say that, working alongside of you last year at the RNC was one of the most proud moments of my life. I was honored to have that position. I was honored to work alongside of you. We had a great team there. But I think a lot of us were hopeful that maybe you would stay at the RNC because we need great leadership there. But I got to be honest, when I heard you were going to run for this Senate seat, no one was more excited than I was, because I know how hard you work. I know, exactly where you stand on the things that matter. But from your perspective, why did you feel like that move was the right move to leave the RNC and to run for this Senate seat in North Carolina?
Look, when I had that conversation with President Trump back in December, and when the two of you called and said, hey, you need to stay at the RNC, that really was kind of the plan that we were moving forward with. And when Tom Tillis announced that he was not going to run, the immediate thought was, we need to find the right person in this seat to be an ally for President Trump. And when the president called and said, hey, I would really like you to step into this race and make sure that you give me an ally in the Senate, I knew that we were gonna go and we were gonna be able to win this race. Look, I think that what North Carolina, fundamentally, we have the same issue set that all of America does, right? It is all about the economy and making sure that the men and women of this state, they can get married, they can buy a house, they can have a family, and they can do better. It's making sure that every community is going to be safe. It's making sure that we can protect our interests and allies around the world. And that issue set is one I'm 1,000% comfortable with. I firmly believe in the America First agenda. We're going to fight every day to put North Carolina first. I can tell you this. We're ready for you in North Carolina. Anytime you want to come back and run, I know North Carolina is going to stand up and be ready to vote for you. But this state, we love you. But I'm excited. I really am. And I think that, the opportunity that we have here in North Carolina to continue to fight for this great state is one I'm very excited about every single day.
Well, thank you. That's so nice, and it means so much to me. I love this state too. I got to go home for like 12 hours over the weekend. I surprised my mom for her birthday and flew in for the day, and we did a little surprise party. And I got to tell you, weather was perfect. Michael, it made me want to move back to North Carolina. I don't know what's going on there. Here's what I'll tell everyone listening in our home state of North Carolina right now. Whenever you elect people to Congress, you are electing your representative to go to Washington, D.C. and vote based on what they think is the best thing for you and how you would want them to vote on all the issues. I can tell North Carolinians you would be hard-pressed to find a better person to do just that than Michael Whatley. So I hope people pay attention. I hope they learn more about you, Michael. Again, it was my honor to get to work alongside of you last year. I don't think Donald Trump would be president without you being chairman of the RNC. I think we had an amazing team and everybody worked so seamlessly together. So I'm going to encourage North Carolinians to take a long, hard look at you and make sure that they vote the right way and they know what the right way is. Before we let you go, though, if people want to get involved in your campaign, I know you're already out there because I get photos from like my parents' neighbors, people I know all over the state, and they're with you. And I'm like, wait a minute, Michael's already out there. He's working hard. He's hitting the ground. How can people get involved in your campaign? Because people like to be involved with the winner. How do they get involved?
MichaelWhatley.com. And, we're going to be hitting all 100 counties all across this state. And we're going to make sure that we're talking to every community and every family about what really matters to them. And for folks all across the country, MichaelWhatley.com is the perfect place for them to go and sign up and be a part of this movement to put North Carolina first.
Well, best of luck with everything. We appreciate you spending some time with us. And listen, this is you said transformational in terms of President Trump's administration, the second term. I agree with you. We got to keep it going, though, right? And it has to come from having a House and Senate that vote alongside of him so that we can make lasting change. We don't want this president to have to rule via executive order, although he would actually know, Michael, that he's signing things, not like Joe Biden with the auto pen. We want this to be lasting, and we want to have great people alongside of him. And we're excited for your run, and we're excited to see what happens in the future. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. Best of luck with everything, and we hope you'll come back and check in with us as the campaign progresses.
We will definitely do that. Thank you so much, Laura.
All right. To everybody at home, as always, make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. We'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View. And I won't